Hi everyone, and welcome to another session with Coach Meike. Today we're going to work on how do we react against people that just blast the ever-loving baloney out of the balls and hit deep, flat balls. So that is one thing that I had to really adjust to at the end of my career. When I started, I grew up on clay in 1991. People didn't hit that big. So it was very normal to be about that far behind the baseline, and playing defense just meant that you're letting the ball drop back into your strike zone and you're just rolling the ball heavily back. That changed. 2001, when I retired, you had people like Kim Clijsters, you had the Williams sisters, Capriati. I mean, you had all these people blasting balls right, left, and center. And the game really has changed. So what you don't want to do is when somebody hits the ball deep and flat, the natural inclination that we have is to want to slow down, and you want to do that by falling back, and you want to try to lift it. And what you're seeing here is I'm falling off the ball and I'm most likely going to shank it. So the reason for that is the ball is flat through the court. It's not going to come up to you. Now, if somebody hits a very heavy ball and higher, deeper ball, that's a totally different ball game, right? On that one, I can potentially drop back, or I can even step up and take it on the rise. But if you look at the game these days, especially on the women's side, people hit very flat, and women tend to hug the baseline a little bit more. On the men's side, you still see that deeper playing, but they also have a ton more rotation on the ball. So on a rec level, I'm seeing more of the flatter hitting. So how do you react against that? What you want to do is you need to get down to the ball. So instead of just trying to do this, you got to sit down low to it. And you literally sit down sometimes with your knee to the ground. On the back end, it's the same thing. I can do this. I can do this open stance, not ideal, but if I don't have time to move back, then that's the best I can do. And again, if somebody hits the ball that hard, that flat, if I'm backing up here, I'm going to be toast. So I need to counter that ball by getting down to the ball, reduce my take back, and brush heavily against it. And you see what I'm doing here. I'm still turning. I'm not having a big windup, and I pivot. Or sometimes I can even sit with a closed stance. What we naturally want to do, at least I was inclined to do that because I didn't have that much power, I wasn't a big hitter, I tried to slow things down. And you can't really do that as well. When somebody blasts the ball at you, if you want to slow down, difficult. You either shank or you're just losing control of the ball. So counterintuitive a little bit, but you actually have to hit fairly fast against it. Right, so here, and then you brush heavily. So ideally, you don't want to change direction off that ball. So let's say we're having a ball coming from a cross-court direction. I do not want to then try to go down the line. Give it 100% of your racket face and go right back to where that ball came from. To me, that's playing defense, but staying offensive. So let's look at that from the side. So again, the scenario is I'm playing about this far back behind the baseline, and somebody just keeps drilling hard and flat, low balls at me at the baseline. Again, I don't have time to move back. I don't want to try to lift the ball by leaning back. I'm going to shank him. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sit low, reduce my take back, and brush. So you see that here, I'm just pivoting. And I'm actually going to swing fairly fast. Again, I don't want to slow down my swing because that's just going to be shanking a whole lot right, left. So here we have me from the side. There is one shot that I really want to work on and show you. So I'll just let it run once or twice with a little faster speed, or almost real life And I know that my coaches would have probably yelled at me a little bit that I needed to sink a little lower, but that's all I could do on that ball. So let's look at the preparation here. This time it's an open stance because I'm being pulled out a little bit further. And I think I can get a pretty good feel that I'm reducing my take back. So again, usually I have a little bit of a higher take back, but I'm feeling that I don't have the time to really do that. And I'm working to get my outside leg here, my right leg behind the incoming ball. So that is really where the magic happens. Sink down here and just brush forward. So the ball is a really deep ball, and you see that it's really not coming up very high. So I'm having to really almost short hop it, and I do make contact probably about knee high, which I know as my coaches would have not been happy about. But again, that's all you can do. But the whole point of what I'm trying to do is I try to get down to the ball as low as possible. And this time you do see a variation in the follow through, because I'm just having to brush so heavy over the ball. I can't really extend very long over the ball because otherwise I would launch it. So I'm brushing over the ball and I'm coming around my left hip pretty quickly. So I'm having my take back, if you ever heard that term, from my pocket here. So I'm having my take back here on the pocket, and then I'm finishing over on the pocket on the other side. So pocket to pocket, there's pocket to biceps, as we talked about earlier, or pocket over your shoulder, or if you're a Nadal, you have that buggy whip that actually goes over your dominant shoulder. Okay, so same thing. Let's look at it from the back. Ball is coming heavily at me. I don't have the time to back up. I'm gonna sit low, and this is literally what my coaches said, sit. Sometimes felt a little bit like a dog, but that's okay. All right, so you sit and hit. Sit and hit. If you even have time, see here, if I'm loading really low, I'm doing this fast and dynamically. My left foot, I'm a right-hander, comes forward even. Again, it's a very offensive-minded defensive play, if you will. All right, so let's look at a real life example of how to counter those heavier and deeper balls. So my hitting partner here is a D3 college player, so she hits a pretty heavy ball. And what I'm working on in this video really is to not give ground too much because I just don't have time. So we'll see that I'm really trying to get low to the ball, reducing my take back and really working with a low center of gravity to stay stable and balanced throughout those shots. So I'm just going to let this run in real life first, so you get a feel for the speed. And then we'll break it down a little bit more in detail. All right, so I think you get a feel for what those balls are. So what I'm really trying to work on is on each ball, and you see how deep Erica is hitting that ball. I mean, that ball almost bounces on the baseline. I don't have the time to back up on that. Even if I do have the time, I would be so far behind the baseline that I'm just opening the court up for so many more angles, which is the one thing that you really are trying to avoid, and what you're trying to expose with moving up to shorter balls, because the further you can step inside the court on shorter balls, the more you can open angles. And to my mind, that hurts opponents way more than hitting balls that are hard but not really well placed. So incoming ball is coming in, and I'm really trying to sit low on that ball. and I'm staying low through that ball. So that's really key, that you're not popping up, you're not trying to lift the ball by then popping up. You're really trying to work with your body weight going through the ball, through the shot, and I'm just giving it 100% of the racket face. That's just a term that I like, that really resonated with me. If somebody's hitting a ball cross court and I am in trouble here, which I do think I am because it's a really deep ball, I do not want to change direction because it's way too easy to just have that ball glance off to my right. So I'm trying to sit through the ball here, and I'm brushing through it pretty quickly. I don't want to try to slow a fast ball down by slowing my own swing down, because the timing of that is almost impossible to really master. The second thing, or third thing by now, is I'm reducing my take back a little bit. I usually have a little bit of a bigger wind up here, but I'm just really pulling it down. I'm trying to get under the ball and then extend through the ball, and I'm still finishing high over my left shoulder here. Same on a ball where I'm being pulled out a little further. I'm still managing to have a close stance on that ball, but again, I really have to get down to the ball, and I'm making contact, about hip high, maybe actually a little too low, but that's the best I could do on that ball. So I'm getting that maybe a little bit below hip, but that's okay. That's, again, the best that I could do on that one. And again, it's a pretty fast brush. Right, on that one here, I had a little bit more time. I didn't have to get down as much because the ball, in relation to the others, is fairly short. So I have more time to actually get one half step into the court, which at this pace is a pretty big take away from her and taking away time. So again, last one here. Again, she's hitting a really good deep ball. It's bouncing about 1 or 1.5 meters before the baseline. No time to back up. I got to get down to that ball and then brush over it. I'm still managing to have a pretty fast and good high follow through. You do see the difference though in follow throughs a little bit. So this one goes a little bit more over my biceps, whereas the other ones were a little higher. So, and this to me is just, that's an individual choice that I'm making. If I have control of the ball, I'm still trying to extend a little bit more. And it really depends on what kind of ball I want to hit. Because in this position here, my best choice is to really just try to hit a deep ball back to neutralize my opponent at the baseline. I really can't hit a short angle from this position, where I would probably brush over the ball even heavier and come from the pocket basically to finishing over my pocket, my left hip here.